Hello friends, welcome to the Saker Academy. Uh, this is module 13 about AZ-900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Certification, Rail Exam questions and concepts. In this module, I will be providing few more Rail Exam questions and concepts. So let's begin the questions. Question number 221. You have an Azure environment. You need to create a new Azure virtual machines from a tablet that runs the Android operating system. The solution is here. You use PowerShell in Azure Cloud Shell. So does the solution meet the goal? Right. So you use the PowerShell in Azure Cloud Shell. So the options we have yes and no. The right answer is here yes. Why? Because Azure PowerShell is designed for managing and administering Azure resources from the command line. So using this Azure PowerShell, that's when you want to build any automated tools that use the Azure Resource Manager model, right? So, and you can try it out in your browser with Azure Cloud Shell or install on your local machine as well. So that's why you can create the any resource, right? So using the Azure PowerShell. So right answer is yes. Next question. Question number 222. You have an Azure environment. You need to create a new Azure virtual machines from a tablet that runs the Android operating system. The solution is here. You use the Power Apps portal. It's the Power Apps portal. So does this solution meet the goal? So the options we have yes and B no. The right answer is yes, B no. So using Power Apps portal, right, to create an external facing websites that allow users outside their organizations to sign in with a wide variety of identities, create or view data in dataverse, or even browse content anonymously. But you cannot create any resource by using the Power Apps portal. So that's only you can create an external kind of websites where you can create the outside of the organization to make the sign in or login facility for that, right? So here the right answer is B no. Next question number 223. The question is same here. You need to create a new virtual machine, Azure virtual machines from a tablet that runs the Android operating system. So but the provided solution is here. You use the Azure portal, right? So does the solution meet the goal? Options we have A yes and B no, right? So we use the Azure portal. So the right answer is yes, right? So using the Azure portal is a web-based and unified console that provides an alternative to command line tools. With the Azure portal, you can manage any Azure subscription using the graphical user interface. And you can build and manage and monitor everything from simple web apps to complex cloud deployments. Create custom dashboards for an organized view of resources or configure accessibility options for an optimal experience. Being a web-based, the Azure portal can be run on a browser from a tablet that runs on an Android operating system. So the Azure portal is a graphical interface where you will have all such options where you can create the Azure virtual machines, where you can monitor the um, uh, manage the subscriptions, where you can monitor and manage the web apps or till the cloud deployments, whatever you want to deploy any on-premises servers, right? So those are all features we have using the Azure portal. You can achieve this, right? So the right answer is yes. Next question number 224. You have an Azure environment. You need to create a new Azure virtual machine that runs from a tablet that runs the Android operating system. So the solution is here. You use Bash in Azure Cloud Shell. Does the solution meet the goal? Right? Here the right answer is again yes. So Azure Cloud Shell, right? So you can create virtual machines using the Bash or PowerShell, Azure Cloud Shell is an interactive and authenticated and browser accessible shell for managing Azure resources, right? So you can create using the Azure Cloud Shell, and it provides the flexibility of choosing the shell experience that best suits the way you work either bash or PowerShell, right? So the right answer is here. Question number 225. An Azure administrator plans to run a PowerShell script that creates Azure resources. You need to recommend which computer configuration to use to run the script. Solution is here: run the script from a computer that runs Linux and has the Azure CLI tools installed. Right, so does this solution meet the goal? Right, so you run the script from a computer that runs on Linux, so the system has the Linux OS and has the Azure CLI tools. So with that, whether we can run the PowerShell script to create the Azure resources, right? Yeah, the right answer is no, you cannot. So see, the PowerShell script, the file is a file that contains PowerShell commandlets and code. A PowerShell script needs to be run in PowerShell only. PowerShell can be installed on Linux. However, the question states that the computer has Azure CLI tools, not PowerShell installed. Therefore, this solution does not meet the goal. The right answer is B, no. Question number 226. The question is same here, but the solution is here: run the script from a computer that runs Chrome OS and uses Azure Cloud Shell. Does this solution meet the goal? The options we have A, yes, and B, no. The right answer is here, yes. A PowerShell script is a file that contains PowerShell commandlets and code. A PowerShell script needs to be run in PowerShell, and with the Azure Cloud Shell, you can run the Azure PowerShell scripts in web browser. You can log into the Azure portal and select the Azure Cloud Shell option, and then you open the PowerShell session in the web browser, and there you can run the PowerShell script. So, but the Azure Cloud Shell has the necessary Azure PowerShell module installed. Now, to run a PowerShell script in Azure Cloud Shell, you need to change to the directory where the PowerShell is stored. So the right answer is here, yes, you can run the PowerShell script here. Question number 227. The question is same here what we have seen in the previous question, but provided solution is here: run the script from a computer that runs Mac OS and has the PowerShell core 6.0 installed. Does the solution meet the goal? Right, so to run the PowerShell script, so here the system, it has the Mac OS and it has PowerShell core 6.0 installed. Software is got installed in that OS as well. So does the solution meet the goal? The right answer is here, yes. So again, the PowerShell script, that file that contains a PowerShell commandlets and code, where the script needs to run in a PowerShell. But in this question, the computer has PowerShell code 6.0 installed. So therefore, the solution doesn't meet the goal. So to create Azure resources using the PowerShell, you need to import Azure PowerShell module, which includes the PowerShell commandlets required to create the Azure resources. The right answer is here, yes. Question number 228. The question is same here, but provided solution is here: run the script from a computer that runs Windows 10 and has the Azure PowerShell module installed. Right? The computer runs Windows 10 and has the Azure PowerShell module got installed in that OS. So does the solution meet the goal? The right option is here, A, yes. Right? So the PowerShell module is got installed, and where the system contains the Windows OS, right? So that runs on Windows OS, Windows 10 OS. So this solution meet the goal, right? So the right answer is A, yes. Question number 229. So you have the services and you have the statements where you need to place the right service under the answer area. The services are here: Azure Active Directory, Azure Key Vault, Azure Lighthouse, Azure Security Center, Azure Sentinel. The statements we have here: analyze security log files from Azure virtual machines, display the secure core for an Azure subscription, store passwords for use by Azure function applications. The right answers here: Azure Sentinel, Azure Sentinel, Azure Security Center, and Azure Key Vault. So the Azure Sentinel, the explanations what we see here, Azure Sentinel collects the data from different data sources, perform the data correction and data visualization, the processed data in a single dashboard. It helps to collect, detect and investigate and respond to security threats and incidents. So that, right? So the right answer is here Azure Sentinel for the first statement. The next one is Azure Security Center. Right? Azure Security Center constantly reviews your active recommendations and calculate your score based on them. The score of recommendations is derived from its severity and security best practices that will affect your workload security the most. Security Center also provides you with an overall secure score. Overall secure score is an accumulation of all your recommendation scores. You can view your overall secure score across your subscriptions or management groups depending on what you select. The score will vary based on subscription selected and the active recommendations on these subscriptions, right? So this is what the Azure Security Center. The next one is Azure Key Vault. Here Azure Key Vault, right? Azure Functions offer a great way to store and reference credentials, keys, and other secrets and application settings as application settings. So application settings are exposed as environment variables during the execution and also are encrypted at rest and transmitted over an encrypted channel. However, you still run this risk of inadvertently exposing these secrets to unauthorized users. So a more favored approach to alleviate this issue is to store the credentials or keys in the Azure Key Vault as secrets, right? And reference the secrets as environment variables in our Azure function apps. So that's the reasons the last statement for that Azure Key Vault is the right answer. Next question, question number 230 from, so we have to fill in the right option here. You can view which user turned off a specific virtual machine during the last 14 days. So the options we have Azure Access Control IAM, Azure Event Hubs, Azure Activity Log and Azure Service Health. So the right option here we have to choose where you can view which user turned off of a specific virtual machine during the last 14 days. You have to monitor and you have the monitor capability and where you can view this when the user is turned off the virtual machine, specific virtual machine during last 14 days. There is a time, right? So the right answer is here Azure Activity Log. So you use the Azure Activity Log, not Azure Monitor. Here the Azure Monitor is also not there the option, right? So not the Azure Monitor, right? So to view which user turned off a specific virtual machine during the last 14 days. Activity logs are kept for 90 days and you can query for any range of dates as long as the starting date isn't more than the 90 days in the first. In this question what I mentioned, we would need to create a filter to display a shutdown operations on the virtual machines in the last 14 days. That's why you can view from the Azure Activity Log. Right? The right answer is Azure Activity Log. Next question, question number 231. So here we have three statements. So right, so let's go to the statement 1. Azure Sentinel stores collected events in an Azure storage account, right? The options we have yes and no, right? Azure Sentinel stores collected events in a Azure storage account, right? Here the right answer is yes. And Azure Sentinel can remediate incidents automatically, right? So here it can collect the events what it stores right from this in a storage account, and also it will remediate the instance automatically. Here the right answer is here yes. In the last statement, Azure Sentinel can collect Windows dependent firewall logs from Azure virtual machines, right? Can collect Windows dependent firewall logs from Azure virtual machines. So the security logs here basically, right? So the right answer is here yes. So here you can go see the explanation, right? For the first statement, it collects Sentinel, right? Azure Sentinel collects the data from at a cloud scale across all users, devices, applications, and infrastructure, both on premises and in multiple clouds as well. So that's where it will collect the uh, data, what it's stored in the multiple services. So the next statement, right? So it will respond to incidents rapidly with orchestration and automation of common tasks. So that's where Sentinel, it has the ability to remediate incidents automatically. So that's where it will respond to the incidents rapidly with orchestration, built-in orchestration and automation of common tasks. The last one, right? So it will also collect the data at cloud virtual scale across users, devices, applications, and infrastructure. So both on premises and in multiple clouds as well. So that's where it also collects the firewall logs from the Azure virtual machines. Okay. And question number 232. Here we have three statements. Let's go to the statements one in the answer area. You can create group policies in Azure Active Directory. You can create group policies in Azure Active Directory. Right here, the right answer is no. You cannot create the group policies in Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory, right? Azure AD joins only applies to Windows 10 devices. It will not have the ability to create any group policies. Group policies will not create in Azure Active Directory, right? So the right answer is no. And next statement, you can join Windows 10 devices to Azure Active Directory. Here the right answer is yes. You can join the Windows 10 devices to Azure Active Directory. You can integrate the Active Directory, the on-premises Active Directory users to the Windows 10. So that's the capability it has. The right answer is yes. And the last statement, you can join Android devices to Azure Active Directory. Here the right answer is again no. You cannot do that. So AD join only applies to Windows 10 devices. So it will not be applicable for the Android devices. So you have the reference link where you can see the more information about the how the group policies works in Azure and how you can manage and what all devices it will be allowed to create the where you can join those with Azure Active Directory, right? So that everything you will have the when you go through these reference links for more information. Next question, question number 233. Here, let's go to the statement 1. Authorization to access Azure resources can be provided only to Azure Active Directory users, right? Here the right answer is no. So there is no such restrictions where you can only access to the Azure Active Directory users, right? Authorization to access Azure resources can be provided by other identity providers by using federation. A commonly used example of this is to federate your on-premises Active Directory environment with Azure AD and use this federation for authentication and authorization, right? So that's where you can give the access to the other than the Azure Active Directory users as well. So the right answer is no. So next statement, state identity stored in Azure Active Directory third-party cloud services and on-premises Active Directory can be used to access Azure resources. Here the right answer is again yes. Here as described above, so third-party cloud services and on-premises Active Directory can be used to access Azure resources. This is known as a federation. So federation is a collection of domains that have established trust. The level of trust may vary, but typically includes authentication and almost always includes authorization as well. A typical federation might include a number of organizations that have establishment trust for shared access to set of resources. Right answer is here yes. Statement 3. Azure has built-in authentication and authorization services that provide secure access to Azure resources. The right answer is yes. Azure Active Directory is a centralized identity provider in the cloud. This is a primarily built-in authentication and authorization service to provide service access to the Azure Azure resources. So the right answer is here, yes. Question number 234. Identity stored in an on-premises Active Directory can be synchronized to Azure Active Directory. The right answer is here, yes. By default, on-premises AD and Azure AD are not synchronized, but can be synchronized when you need. When it is needed, you can synchronize the on-premises Active Directory and Azure Active Directories. That's where you can store those identities here. Statement 2. Identity stored in Azure Active Directory, third-party cloud services, and on-premises Active Directory can be used to access Azure resources. Right? The right answer is here, yes. So, third-party cloud services and on-premises Active Directories can be used to access Azure resources basically. So, this is known as a federation. Federation is a collection of domains that have established trust. The level of trust may vary, but typically includes authentication and almost always includes authorization as well. A typical federation might include a number of organizations that have established trust for shared access to set of resources. The right answer is here, yes. The identities can be stored in third-party services or on-premises Active Directory as well. Statement 3. Azure has a built-in authentication and authorization services that provide secure access to Azure resources. Here the right answer is yes. So it has the built-in authentication authorization services to provide the secure access to Azure resources here. The right answer is yes. Next question, question number 235. Azure Active Directory requires the implementation of domain controllers on Azure virtual machines. The right answer is here, no. Windows Azure Active Directory is not a domain controller. So Active Directory is not a domain controller. You cannot join computers. To Windows Azure AD. You can use it to sync on-premises AD with Azure AD to easily to enable when web-based single sign-on assessment. So we can use to build enterprise-grade web applications also, but you cannot implement you don't have the Azure AD have the domain control accessibility. So the right answer is no. So next question, Azure Active Directory provides authentication services for resources hosted in Azure and Microsoft 365. Here the right answer is yes. Azure Active Directory is a centralized identity provider in the cloud. This is a primarily built-in authentication and authorization service to provide secure access to Azure resources and as well as the Microsoft 365 software as well. The right answer is yes. Statement 3. Each user account in Azure Active Directory can be assigned only one license. Right? Here the right answer is no. User accounts in Azure Active Directory can be assigned multiple licenses for different Azure or Microsoft 365 services here. So right answer is no. Question number 236. Statement 1. From the Azure portal, you can distinguish between services that are generally available and services that are in public preview. The right answer is here yes. Public preview, during the phase, we allow any customers with the proper Azure AD license to evaluate the new feature. Microsoft Customer Support Services will supply support services during this phase. But normally, service level agreements do not apply. From new features exposed in the Azure AD portal, customer can expect to see information banners in the user interface that draw attention to the new experience available during the preview. By clicking on the information banner, customers then opt into the preview experience. So that's where you can see that. The right answer is yes. Statement 2. After an Azure service becomes general available, the service is no longer updated with new features. The right answer is no. So generally available, the feature, right? So after the public preview is completed, the feature is open for all licensed customers to use and is supposed to via all Microsoft support channels. Be aware, When a new feature impacts existing functionality, it might change the way you or your users use the functionality, right? So the right answer is here no. When you create an Azure resources for a service in public preview, you must recreate the resources once the service becomes generally available. Here the right answer is no. So you don't need to recreate the service again, resource again, right? So that might have the impact or change you or users the functionality, but you don't need to change the recreate the resources, but here you can see the different new features adding to the existing service. Question number 237. So here we have three statements. Let's go to the statement 1. In Azure Active Directory Premium P2, at least 99.9% availability is guaranteed. So the options we have yes and no. So here the right options here yes, right? So Microsoft writes a guarantee at least 99.9% availability of Azure Active Directory Premium Edition services. The services are considered available in the following scenarios, like so users are able to log into the service, log into the access portal panel and access applications on the access panel and resetting passwords. So these are all will come, and IT administrators are able to create, read and delete and writes the entries in the directory or provision or deprovisioning users to the applications in the directory. So the whoever having the premium edition, right? So those will have the at least 99.9% availability guaranteed in Microsoft Azure. Let's go to the statement 2. The service level agreement for Azure Active Directory Premium P2 is the same as the SLA for Azure Active Directory Free. Right? So here the right answer is no. SLA is provided for the free tier. SLA is also provided for the free tier of Azure Active Directory. So there is no such condition we have, right? So even the SLA is provided for free tier of Azure Active Directory as well, right? So the right answer is no. Next statement: all paying Azure customers receive a credit if their monthly uptime percentage is below the guaranteed amount in the service level agreement, right? So all overpaying the right Azure customers, though they will receive a credit if their monthly uptime percentage is below the guaranteed amount in the service level agreement, right? The right answer is yes, right? You can claim credit if the availability falls below the SLA. The amount of credit depends on the availability, right? For example, if you claim the 25% of credit if the availability is less than 99.9%, 50% credit for the less than 99%, and 100% for less than 95% availability, right? So the right answer is here yes. Next question number 238. So let's go to the statement 1. To use Azure Active Directory Azure AD credentials to sign into the computer that runs Windows 10, and the computer must be joined to Azure AD, right? Here the right answer is yes. So to use the Azure Active Directory credentials, you must have to sign into the computer, so which is running on that particular OS, right? So that must be joined to Azure AD. So then only you will be able to log into the system. So next statement: users in Azure Active Directory are organized by using resource group. Users in Azure Active Directory are organized by using resource group. Here the right answer is no. So the Azure Active Directory is a different component where you are have in Azure. So but it is not being organized by using the resource group. So the resource group will have to have the by using a resource group you can manage the resources, but it is not the service which you are configuring the users in Azure Active Directory. So the right answer is no. And next statement, Azure Active Directory groups support dynamic membership rules. Dynamic membership rules. Okay, the right answer is yes. So if groups in support, if you have any dynamic membership rules, right, where you can apply, right, so that we can apply in Azure Active Directory. So the right answer is yes. Question number 239. Let's go to the statement 1 here. Azure Active Directory can be used to manage access to on-premises applications. Right? Azure Active Directory can be used to manage access to on-premises applications. The right answer is yes. Right? To create a user account or assign it to the enterprise application, right? So you need an Azure AD account, user account. If you don't already have one, you can create an account for free, and you can also manage the on-premises application. So that's where you have the hybrid cloud model, right? So you will be able to manage. So next statement, Azure Active Directory provides a sign in on facility, single sign-in on facility. Okay. So the right answer is yes. Azure Active Directory is a centralized identity provider in the cloud, right? So delegating authentication and authorizations to it enables scenarios such as conditional access policies, right, that require users to be a specific location, and the use of multi-factor authentication, as well as enabling user and sign in once and then be automatically sign into all the web apps that they see that share the same centralized directory, right? This capability is referred to as a single sign-on, right? So it will provide the access to the single sign-on facility. It will facilitate the single sign-on as well. So the right answer is yes. Let's go to the next statement. iOS devices can be registered in Azure Active Directory. Here the right answer is yes. We can register iOS devices like Windows 10, iOS, Android, and Mac OS. Right? The right answer is yes. Question number 240. You need to choose the right option here. So that enables users to authenticate to multiple applications by using single sign-on. Options we have: application security groups in Azure, Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, Azure Key Vault, and Azure Security Center. Right. So particularly to authenticate or authorize, provide the authenticating and authorization facilities. Right. So here Azure Active Directory is the service which we can utilize to to enable the users to authenticate with the multiple applications. Right. So the right answer is Azure Active Directory. So it's a centralized identity provider in the cloud, and it will delegating the authentication and authorization to it and enable such as conditional access policies where you want to require user to be in a specific location. This is an example, like in a use of multi-factor authentication and enabling the users sign in once and then be automatically signed into all the applications that share the same centralized directory, right? So this capability is referred to a single sign-on. Next, right? So with this we completed the module 13, right? Both the AZ-900 Microsoft Azure fundamentals, real exam questions and concepts. So if you are new to my channel, please like, share and subscribe and provide your valuable comments. Thanks for watching.